We are joined today by Bennett Lehmann of District on Deck. In today's episode, we're going to be getting into some Nationals offseason wish list item and, of course, looking into how much faith you still have in President of Baseball Ops, Mike Rizzo.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at BrianClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals for all your latest Nationals news and notes. Make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And while you're at it, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcast. And as we were saying, we are joined today by Bennett Lehmann of District on Deck. You can catch him at DC Burke over on Twitter. So Bennett, let's just jump right into this thing because the Nationals, as you know, you've been writing all offseason about it. Yep. We've got a lot of stuff that we need to address here in DC, but off the top of the dome, what is kind of one thing that you really want to see addressed this offseason by the Washington Nationals?
Yeah, so this is, just a topic in general that I've written a lot about. And I think the main thing that I want, there's definitely a couple names in particular, but the main just overall, just to, kind of keep it more general, is definitely a veteran bat. Someone with a lot of pop, that can provide a veteran presence in the clubhouse, someone who's going to kind of serve as this new team's iteration of the Jason Worth signing from 2011. I think that's what this team really needs, just kind of at the forefront if they really want to take that next step. Obviously, with some of the younger guys that we have and things that have transpired both on and off the field, I think having that veteran leadership and, presence in the clubhouse would be something that I would say is paramount at, kind of the top of my wish list.
Yeah, and there's a lot of veteran guys out there speaking and sitting here today. I've certainly talked a lot about Pete Alonso, Christian Walker's among some of those names as well. Just to kind of get into it for me, my top of the item wish list for this Nationals team, as you were saying, is a veteran bat. Like people will talk about the starting pitching need. Like, of course, we do need starting pitching. Everyone understands that. We've seen it in October. Pitching wins. But also, to get to October, you need some good power bats. And the Nationals simply have not been that. They have had bottom slugging seasons over the last really 4 or 5 seasons here. You've had guys that aren't hitting home runs consistently. You haven't had anyone hit home runs consistently really since Juan Soto left in 2022. And even before that, it wasn't enough production. And going into 2025, you have Pete Alonso out there, someone who is going to hit 40-plus home runs per season, who will fill that void over at first base. Maybe not in a defensive kind of way because Pete Alonso is not the best defender. We've gotten to know him pretty well here in the NL East, but if it was up to me, I don't know what you would think about this, but I would have Pete Alonso at the top of my list. We could get into Juan Soto, but really, realistically speaking, Juan Soto is kind of out of the cards at this point, but I don't think someone like Pete Alonso would be.
Yeah, for sure. The way that I've kind of segmented my wish list of guys that I would love on the Nationals is you have your buy low guys, you have the realistic guys, and you have the pipe dream guys. And so there's, I guess, just to, kind of starting with like the realistic guys, I think Pete Alonso fits in that category. Obviously, he kind of checks all the boxes, defensively, not really a threat on the base paths, but the power, the veteran presence, being able to say that we stole him away from an NL East rival kind of checks those boxes. Yep. And then the other guys that I would put in that category with him is, I'd say there's, the 3 main guys that we've already been connected to, whether just by rumors or by, pure speculation by, respected voices in and around baseball. But Alex Bregman, Christian Walker, and Anthony Santander, I think those are kind of the 3 realistic guys. I think realistically, what makes the most sense to me would be signing definitely Christian Walker. I think of him as like an Adam LaRoche type of signing, where he's not going to be the long-term solution. He's already, I think he'll be like 34 on opening day next year. So, but he fills everything that you need at first base until you see a guy like Yo-Yo Morales ready to come up in a couple of years, hopefully. Provides the pop, provides the Gold Glove defense. He's a great veteran presence. Definitely think he would be a great fit. You have Alex Bregman, who is a guy that I honestly over the last couple of years haven't been the biggest fan of, but if we were to sign him and he had the curly W on his chest, all those takes go out the window and I'm all in. So, and then you have Anthony Santander, who being able to bring him across the beltway, switch hitter, ton of pop, get it better. Only 30 years old, that also checks a ton of boxes for me as well.
Yeah, it's interesting actually that you brought up the Christian Walker point, because I think I was talking to a buddy about this the other day, and I was like, I don't really want Christian Walker. Like, Christian Walker is 34 years old. He's not really going to be a part of this future going forward. And he was like, well, think back to Adam LaRoche. Yeah. Adam LaRoche was exactly that. He was a Gold Glove, Silver Slugger kind of guy, and was a mainstay, a rep first base for a couple seasons for this Nats team, and he was a leader in the clubhouse as well. So when he was done it in the postseason, and of course, the Nationals made that move, and it was awesome. Like, you got great production at first base. Adam LaRoche, while he was a little inconsistent, he did have a very good career here. And then I was kind of like, you know what? Christian Walker would not be that bad. And I don't know about you, Bennett, but in I prioritize offense first. And Christian Walker is a Gold Glove caliber defender, just won the Gold Glove award this year. I mean, he is a stout defender, and he also provides some power at the plate as well. He's not a pedestrian hitter by any means. He's well above average, especially for that first base position. But I look at it this way. Like, the Nationals, they need to address one thing, in my opinion. And I'm just looking for the long ball. That is why I prioritize Pete Alonso at this point, because I'm like, hey, number one, I do think Pete Alonso kind of brings a little bit more of an aura to this team as well. And also I think it's like the kind of stealing him away from the New York Mets. Like, that would be an awesome thing to kind of shove in their face a little bit. But it is a very interesting point, because I've been like, you know what? I don't really want Christian Walker. Like, I do want him, but he's also 34 years old. I want someone who can kind of be a big building block for this team. But I mean, hey, Yohandy Morales is someone who I think is a legit prospect, someone who could definitely hit at the major league level. I think the big question is whether he plays first base or third base, or maybe the Nationals try to do something, stick him in left field. Who knows at this point in time? I could truly see all those options on the table at this point. But having someone like an Adam LaRoche type, as you were mentioning, Christian Walker, I think that would be a great fit. But I do want to look at the pitching side of things here real quick with you, because we do know Nationals, they need to add starting pitching. Yeah. I'm sure you've got some of those guys on your wish list. So I'm going to give you first little knock here. What do you say about starting pitching?
Yeah, for sure. So the starting pitching side, I think just because from the fact that if I am Mike Rizzo, the way that I'm structuring my offseason, and I'm on the same wavelength as you, where I would rather spend big on a bat at this point in time, especially considering, just the pipeline that we have in terms of starting pitching that's already in the majors and is, going to be coming down, to DC in a couple of years with like Travis Sakura, Yarlene Susana, if he sticks, to starting pitching, and, all the young guys that we already have, Irvin, Gore, I guess Gray when he comes back, Mitchell Parker, DJ Hers. We really have, just an overabundance of young arms in our starting pitching, which is great. But what we really need is a guy that we can hand the ball to in game one of a playoff series and just have confidence that they're going to shove. And to me, I think that there's four guys that really make sense. One of them is coming off an injury, which I'll start with him, which is Shane Bieber. I've been really high on him for, a few years now. Obviously, him coming off Tommy John, don't know at what point next season he would be ready. I know this, in 2024, he got hurt after only a couple starts. So, maybe we'd be able to get him back by, mid-season next year. But he could probably be had for a lot cheaper than I guess, what he would have if he had stayed healthy this whole year because he was dealing before he got hurt. But the three main guys that to me all make a ton of sense. The first is Jack Flaherty, who I'm very torn on him. He was, really good for a couple of years, and then was awful last year, was great again this year. So it's kind of a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, where it's like, don't know which version of Jack Flaherty we're going to be signing. No, he's also a West Coast guy. He's already said he wants to stay with the Dodgers. So not sure how much sense it makes, but we'll see on him. One guy that I think I would love, makes a ton of sense for this team, is Nathan Eovaldi. He is an absolute dog when it comes to, being a big game pitcher, playoff success. I live down here in Texas now, been to a couple of Rangers games, seen him pitch in person. The stuff is live. The fastball is live. He's awesome. I know that would be a big loss. A lot of my buddies are really worried about losing him in free agency that are Rangers fans. Then the other guy is a guy that we saw in the World Series, which our site has written about as well, but Walker Buehler. I think he is kind of the ideal, especially if we spend big on a bat, don't have a ton to spend on starting pitching. He's kind of like your buy low bounce back guy, where he's also a big game pitcher. We saw what he was able to do in the World Series this year and in the postseason. He's awesome, has that, big time pedigree. And I think he could be had for probably cheaper than, any of those other names that I just listed. So those are kind of the guys that I really hope that we target.
Yeah, you brought up Walker Buehler there, and he's kind of at the top of my wish list as well, because I do think Walker Buehler can bounce back. Maybe it's because the recency bias here, but I saw what he did in the World Series and really down the postseason stretch as he got healthier, as he got more innings under his belt. He started to look more like his old self, and he has battled a lot of injuries really over the last few seasons here. But I mean, Walker Buehler is still at the top of his game, in my opinion. But there is another guy that I think the Nationals, it's a little unlikely to go after him, but I want to tell you who that is after we tell you guys about over at our friends at SelectQuote. In the World Series, there's the Super Bowl, and of course the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. And of course, SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Head to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon, and go to SelectQuote.com/lockedon today to get started. At SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. We are joined by Bennett Lehmann from District on Deck. You can catch him at DC Burke over on Twitter, and of course myself at Ryan Clary 11. But as we were saying, we are going to get into how much faith you have in Mike Rizzo. But another name I did want to throw out there, Bennett, Max Fried. Now, I kind of have this weird thing because the Nationals are weirdly loaded with lefties on their starting rotation right now. You've got Mackenzie Gore, Mitchell Parker, DJ Hers, and Patrick Corbin is going to be off the books, but still, those are three guys. And of course, it's not like a terrible thing, but if you added a fourth one with all those guys in there, it would kind of feel a little too crowded. Like, I would like to see them go after a right-handed pitcher. Now, that may be kind of like a dinosaur way to think about this whole process, but I want to see them go after a right-handed pitcher. So you mentioned Jack Flaherty. You mentioned, we didn't even mention Corbin Burns, but come on, he's going to go to a huge market team. Someone's going to pay him a ton of money. Baltimore's not going to get him back at this point. But there are a couple different guys that I think the Nationals could go after, and I would like to see them go after a Fried type. Now, I just don't know if they will kind of have the money to do that at this point, especially if we expect them to go after a veteran bat over a pitcher. So we'll see how that goes. But I do want to get your thoughts on Mike Rizzo here, because Mike Rizzo, I've always said this, I trusted Mike Rizzo. I trusted Rizzo getting this process right and getting the Nationals back in the right track. And I think he has done an exceptional job at that. So from an outside perspective with you, what would you say about Mike Rizzo? And do you still have faith in Rizzo kind of heading the baseball ops here?
Yeah, for sure. I've been pretty steadfast over the years in my belief and confidence in Mike Rizzo. I think something that I think our fan base just kind of has struggled to come to terms with is that with sports, teams need to rebuild. That's just the way that things go. Especially, I understand it from the owner's perspective. They had a top 5 payroll in baseball for almost a decade. And, we're not that big market team like the Yankees, like the Red Sox, like the Dodgers. And obviously we still have the absolute gong show that is, the Masson TV deal that we're still trying to figure out with the Orioles. So missing out on a lot of revenue there as well. But, I have been very steadfast in my belief for Mike Rizzo over the years. It's really hard to build a championship contender. And while I hated the Juan Soto deal in the moment, hindsight, looking back on it now, I oftentimes think to myself, like, where would this organization be if we didn't make that trade? Just because of how barren our farm system was, at the time, and all the assets that we've gotten back that, we're starting to see come to fruition in the majors. So I think that Mike is going to turn it around. I think if he truly gets the green light this offseason from the owners, I think he will spend and he will, make moves to upgrade this ball club, whether it's by free agency or by, maybe, offloading some of that, talent that we have down on the farm and going out and getting someone on the trade market. I think there's a lot of avenues that he's going to have. I think he just kind of wants to make sure that, ownership is fully on board, and not really looking to sell or anything like that, because that's obviously going to play a big factor in terms of, signing free agents and all that.
Yeah, you know what? Like, you brought up great points there, because like back when that trade happened, it was always going to be a win-lose scenario. The lose is that you're losing a Hall of Fame talent with Juan Soto.
Yeah.
The win was you're getting back the biggest return in sports history as far as trade goes. So it's like, even if, like, sitting here today, James Wood is going to hit, and it looks like CJ Abrams will hit as well, and it looks like Mackenzie Gore will be a mainstay in this rotation for the next 5+ seasons.
Yeah.
So it's like right then and there, like, that is a win of a trade. And you also have guys like Robert Hassel who could turn things around. You have that lottery ticket kind of guy with Harley and Susanna who just put together a filthy, disgusting season and has worked his way across multiple levels. And he's certainly looking the part as well. Yeah. And like, you look back at that trade and it literally changed the rebuild for this team. Like, if you don't have James Wood, if you don't have CJ Abrams, and you don't have Mackenzie Gore, imagine what has transpired here. You'd have Cade Cavalli coming off Tommy John. You'd have Josiah Gray, who just got Tommy John as well. This Nationals team would be a 50-win team. Like, we'd be talking, like, seriously, if we didn't, I mean, obviously you would expect them to go out there and make more moves, but if you just had Juan Soto and you just let him walk in free agency, similar to what we did in Bryce Harper in 2018, you would have nothing to show for it. I mean, seriously, you would literally have nothing. And this Nationals team would be a complete mess at this point in time. But, I mean, like, I look back at that trade now and I'm like, thank God, because your farm system, we'd be hyping up Brady House. Brady House is great. I think he could be great. Yeah. But also there's a lot of question marks there. And we're still not 100% sure. Dylan Cruz, I mean, he looks the part. Like, I still believe in Dylan Cruz, but still, I don't know if he's going to be like that mega superstar the way that Paul Skeens is at this point in time. So there's certainly different ways that you could look at it. But I look back, and if you don't make that trade the way that Mike Rizzo did, we'd be a mess. So I still do have faith in Mike Rizzo. I think he will get this back on track here. I think it's up to ownership, really, because I think people, most fans do understand, but there is a loud minority of fans who just think Mike Rizzo is the one who spends in free agency. He's the one that's going to write the check, and he's the one who decides what to pay. It's never about that. It's about the ownership and how they decide to spend their money. And he's given a budget, and he has to listen to it because they're the ones who are the bosses overall, and they're the ones pitching out the money. So I think people get frustrated with Mike Rizzo, but if you really just look at it, from the things that he can control, he's done everything right. And so we'll see if Mike Rizzo can get this back on track. But a little Nats winter preview here, Bennett. Let's kind of talk about, like, when do we think the hot stove could really heat up for this Washington Nationals team? I've got a little prediction here. I'll be telling you what that is after we tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel, and get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, you live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll start with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. And never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now we get back into it here, and we're discussing a little bit of a Nats winter preview here, Bennett. It's the hot stove. Free agency moves have happened. When do you kind of expect the Nationals to strike? Like, do you think this is going to be something that will go on later in the offseason and they try to go after a Pete Alonso type and it won't happen until like January? Do you think they can make something here in the next month or so with the winter meetings coming up? When do you think the Nationals make their first kind of like splashy move?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think just because I feel like the way that, you know, the league overall is kind of treating this free agency. I mean, sure, we've seen teams like, you know, like the Angels have made a bunch of, you know, smaller signings that are, you know, definitely going to be, you know, at least helpful for them, and, you know, to not be like a
they need it
next year. But I feel like the league itself and every other free agent is kind of waiting, it seems like, for the big domino to fall, which is obviously Juan Soto. I think once that gets settled, granted, no idea what his timeline is, like if he's going to drag this out or if he's planning on just signing if someone gives him a super large check up front. Don't know where his head is at with everything, but I think realistically, and it's kind of takes me back to a couple years ago, I think we're going to see our first big splash for the Nationals. What I'm hoping is that it's right around Christmas time, like Mike Rizzo did a couple years ago when he traded for Josh Bell. I think that was on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve.
I think it was.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we get something really big, like right around, you know, kind of the December mark. I would love for something earlier, obviously, you know, would give me a lot of content to, you know, write about and tweet about and stuff. But
same.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think realistically, we're probably looking at like a mid to late December for our first big splash, but also wouldn't be surprised if this is something that like we don't see something big until January. But I'll go ahead and go bold and just say that we make a big splash on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve to get the fan base fired up heading into the new year.
You know what? That was actually going to be mine as well. So I'm a little bit mad you took that, because that was literally going to be my day. Like I was going to say like Christmas, like it's going to be a nice little present. You wake up, get the Bleacher Report notification, like breaking, the Nationals just signed Pete Alonso or whatever it is. But you did bring up a really good point. The fact that like, I do feel like this free agency class is going to be in like wait and see mode for Juan Soto, because there's not a single contending team out there. If you're a top 10 market, you're going to be in on Juan Soto. Yeah. And like, I think everyone, that is going to be their number one priority. If you want to win in 2025, if you have the money to dish out, which a lot of teams do, and you will make room for Juan Soto regardless of the point of it. This guy's a future Hall of Famer. He's 26, 25 years old. I mean, it's Juan Soto, man. Like teams will make room for Juan Soto. So I do think a lot of teams and GMs will kind of wait to see where Juan Soto goes. And I do expect fully that he'll stay in New York. Now, I don't know if it'll be the Yankees or the Mets, but I think a lot of GMs will be in wait and see mode there, but I really like the date there. Like, I think Christmas, or really by Christmas, that is when you'll see the first Nationals big move. It's kind of, it's not going to be maybe something crazy splashy. We just have to kind of wait and see at this point, because there's a lot of big name guys at the top of the market who have to get money, and then we'll just kind of set the standard for other guys and see how much money others get. But I do want to ask you this here, Bennett, because the Nationals do have a track record of success here with Mike Rizzo, but the last few seasons, and really kind of going to this one in 2025, like, the Nationals, you can make a case for them making the playoffs, but if you're a veteran guy, like, let's say the Rays or the Pirates, or not even the Pirates, let's say the Rays offer you like the same amount of money as the Nationals would right now, you'd probably take that Rays contract. And I think the Nationals going into this offseason, you're going to have to pay a loser's tax. Like, is that kind of an overreaction on my part, or do you fully expect the Nationals to kind of overpay someone just to get them here in DC, similar to what they did with Jason Worth?
Yeah, honestly, it's I guess first of all, I think it right now, just given the fact that the Rays are going to be playing their home games in a minor league park next year, might go with the Nats, but
maybe you're right.
From a long term and kind of organizational outlook, especially with the Rays just always seem to find a way to be good every year, and they're great at developing players. So I understand it from that perspective. But I think with the Nats, and this is something that I've talked about in writing as well, and kind of previewing the offseason, in that given the fact that we're looking at a ball club that has been at 71 wins the last 2 years, they're really kind of missing that big piece. Like, sure, if you're a veteran guy, like, coming to play with the young core is super exciting, and everyone has seen the Nationals at their peak, and also the last couple of years at some of the lowest lows. If you're a veteran guy like Pete Alonso and Pete Alonso, and you have a contract offer from the Washington Nationals or the Seattle Mariners or Toronto Blue Jays, let's say, Blue Jays never sign them, but hypothetical, and they all offer you the same amount, realistically, the Nationals are probably your third choice on that list. So, but if the Nationals come in $20 million higher, $30 million higher, I don't really know if anyone's really turning that down, unless maybe you're like Juan Soto. But I think for the market that they will kind of be in, like, the Nationals go out and throw 150 at Alex Bregman, and the Astros only offer him 120. Maybe Bregman stays just because he's familiar, but I don't know. I kind of think a lot of free agents out there would have a pretty tough time turning down an extra 20, 30 million. So I think that it's something that they probably will just kind of have to sign until, just to kind of prove to the rest of the league that, they're willing to make that big splash.
Yeah, no, I think those are all great points, and you made a ton of great points today, Bennett Lehmann. So appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Been listening to the show for a while, so
awesome.
It was awesome.
So we will, of course, for all the listeners out there, you can catch Bennett's work on District on Deck, and of course, catch him over on Twitter as well at DC Burke. That's Bennett. I'm Ryan. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.
Go Nats.